There was a kingdom called Swarga, ruled by a noble king named Vikrama. The people of this kingdom deeply admired their king, and under his reign, they lived in happiness and prosperity. One day, a saint, hearing about the king's wisdom and the intelligence his people, decided to test the king. He approached King Vikrama with a challenge. The saint said, "I have heard that the people of heaven are wise, so I propose a competition of knowledge. Here's my challenge. I will ask a question, and if any of your citizens can answer it, I will leave my life as a hermit and serve you as a slave. However, if no one can answer, then you, King Mayura, must shave your head, surrender your entire kingdom to me, and become my slave." The king, confident in the intellect of his people, accepted the challenge. But as the saint laid down the terms, fear began to creep into the hearts of those in the royal court. Everyone in the king's court was terrified by the gravity of the challenge ahead. Days went by, and the day of the competition finally arrived. The king had gathered all his noble philosophers and the most knowledgeable scholars in his court. The saint also arrived, ready for the challenge. The competition began, and the saint asked the question loudly. "I am not alive, yet I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water can destroy me. What am I?" None of the wise scholars in the king's court were able to answer the saint's question. In response, the king requested 2 days to solve the riddle, and the saint agreed to grant him that time. 2 days passed, and the saint returned to the king's court to inquire about the answer. The king, still unable to solve the question, requested more time. The saint, however, agreed on the condition that this would be the final chance. In response, the king made a grand announcement. "If anyone can solve this question, they will be rewarded with half of my kingdom." A young Brahmin boy named Kiansh, who was less than 5 years old, heard about the competition and the saint's challenging question. Despite his age, Kiansh was known for his sharp intellect. As the 2 days passed, the saint returned to the king's court and asked once again for the answer. The king and all the noblemen in the court bowed their heads in silence, unable to solve the riddle. Just then, young Kiansh entered the court with a confident stride and boldly announced, "I can solve this question." The saint, surprised and amused, looked at the boy and smiled. "Boy, these highly knowledgeable scholars and wise men cannot answer. Do you really think you can?" With a mischievous smile, Kiansh replied, "It's a silly question, ha ha ha." The saint, intrigued, nodded. "All right then, tell me the answer." Kiansh looked at the saint and calmly said, "Please ask the question again." The saint, still amused, repeated, "I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I?" Without hesitation, Kiansh replied confidently, "The answer is fire. Fire is not alive, yet it grows. It doesn't have lungs, but it needs air to burn. It doesn't have a mouth, but water can put it out. It is not a living creature, yet it grows and spreads when fed with oxygen." The entire court fell silent for a moment, stunned by the boy's clear and accurate answer. The saint, who had expected no one to solve the riddle, now stood in admiration. He smiled at Kiansh and said, "You have answered correctly, young one. Your wisdom surpasses the knowledge of many who are much older than you." The king, filled with gratitude and pride, immediately announced to the court, "As promised, young Kiansh shall be rewarded with half of my kingdom." But Kiansh, with a humble smile, bowed and said, "I do not seek riches, your majesty. The real reward is the knowledge I gain and the joy of learning." And so, the young boy's wisdom became a legend in the kingdom. The saint, seeing the purity of the boy's heart and his sharp intellect, left the kingdom, knowing that true knowledge lies not in age or title, but in the depth of one's understanding.